Why do people like me in the helping others to learn business, if we think of it as a business at all, and I often don't, I see it as a vocation, why do we overhelp? Why do we actually hinder the development of people by being too concerned about what people at an individual learner level should really take responsibility for themselves? I don't want to get intellectual about this. This is entirely practical. Let me go through the three reasons I think those that develop others can get into an overhelp situation, because it can happen and we can be led into it, or we can do it deliberately and consciously. So here we go. So the first of these is that we, the developers in the world, are people who really want to help. Those of us that are true professionals, and I'm talking about people who see their role as not to make money out of the development of people, not to be a business person first and foremost, but actually care about what we do, actually are bothered about people getting better in the workplace, at becoming as talented as they can. Sometimes that can take over. Sometimes that desire can be so strong, that feeling that I can see the answers for you before you see them for yourself. I can I can see solutions that you're not going to get to. It's crazy, really, sometimes. And it's true. Sometimes it is valid. It's about saying, let me take you to where you wouldn't have got yourself. And I think we need to be careful there, because sometimes if we over own that space, we're really encroaching into the learner's domain for what they can and should do for themselves. It's a fine line. It's a boundary we draw for ourselves. Where is that point beyond which we think it's unhelpful to help? We draw that boundary ourselves, and it's contextual, it's dynamic, it's never the same place for the same people. It's a judgment call. It's wrong not to help as much as we can. It's wrong also to overhelp, because if we overhelp, the learner or the learners, plural, don't own that space. They don't feel they've done it for themselves. People will support what they help to create. And if we overhelp, there's no creation on the part of the person that's being helped. I hope you see where I'm coming from on that. Where do I go next? These are not in any particular order of significance or sequence. Others' expectations can drive outcomes. Now, sometimes in the role of a coach or in the role of a facilitator or whatever role we're in as developers, we are driven by others' expectations. Sometimes that's the single or multiple learners themselves. Sometimes that's other stakeholders, such as a commissioning client. I'm paying you to do this, so I want you to achieve this with this person in 3 days when it really takes 3 months or 3 years. Sometimes it's whatever it is that goes beyond what we feel is reasonable or is proper or is right ethically. Sometimes we are, I think, influenced, certainly I have been, to the point where I've sometimes got to have some pretty direct conversations. Sometimes we're influenced by others' expectations. I want you to achieve this by then is sometimes reasonable and very often not. And that can lead us to overhelp. It can lead us to cut corners. It can lead us to a situation where we're not truly embedding learning. We're simply appeasing the considerations, the thoughts, the expectations of other parties. I think sometimes we've got to be brave enough to say, this that you're asking is not reasonable. For this to have a lasting impact and effect, we will have to do it this way. And it might not be what anybody wants to hear. And the final, I could have done more of these, but I've kept it to three, is I think a really serious one. And it's learners' passive conditioning. For too long, since school for most of us, we've been trained, we've been taught, we've been instructed, we've been tutored. We've not truly been a partner in that learning process. As a child of 4 or 5, it's unreasonable to expect people to take a serious role in the management of their own development. That's at the age of 4 or 5. At the age of 40 or 50, that's still happening. And I think one thing that causes developers to overhelp is almost an acceptance that that's the norm, almost an acceptance that that's how things are. It doesn't have to be. We have to counter, we have to undo some of that many years conditioning of, I've never been asked before as a learner to do this for myself. Why aren't you telling me the answers? And if we provide the answers too soon, we're truly not helping. more questions than answers typically leads to sustainable learning. And that's why I don't like working in groups, certainly big groups. You get more than 3 or 4 people at a time, and the average value drops off the end of a cliff because you're not able to focus on people's individual circumstances. But that's kind of another story. The issue here in overhelping terms is causing people to accept that they've been in a place for too long that isn't helpful to them in terms of being invited, required, recommended, that they take a genuine role in managing their own learning. That's an unfamiliar space. And I think because of its unfamiliarity, we can sometimes as developers get some kickback. Well, I don't feel comfortable with that. Just tell me the answers. It's good when you have a mature conversation with someone that says, okay, I need to think about this, and don't tell me straight away because I want to work it out for myself. Very often I talk about, I'm not going to give you my thoughts until I've encouraged you to find your own, because I'm contaminating your original thinking. And I like that term. Contaminating your original thinking means I'm giving you answers before you've come up with your own questions. So, hey, I could go on for longer than this. I probably will another time. But these are just 3 thoughts. There are many others. And like I say, what are true for me isn't necessarily true for all practitioners. So I hope this helps. I'm always happy to engage in further conversations with people about this. And I put this out there really as not the definitive answers to anything, but just, I hope, provocative thought starters. So if any of that is of interest, then I'm very pleased for you.